Elia Vorn had survived 3 planetary evacuations, 2 ship crashes, and 1 diplomatic incident involving fermented algae wine. None of that prepared her for the sight of 6 Kreki juveniles passing around her hairbrush like it was some kind of sacred artifact. The observation deck of the Wandering Star gave her a perfect view of the cargo bay below, where the young Kreki had apparently decided to hold what could only be described as the galaxy's worst grooming session. Elia pressed her forehead against the transparent aluminum and wondered, not for the first time, why humans always ended up babysitting the universe's apex predators. The Kreki were terrifying by any reasonable measure. 8 feet tall even as juveniles, with obsidian scales that could deflect small arms fire, retractable claws that could shred titanium, and a bite force that made Earth's ancient tyrannosaurs look like house cats. Their species had conquered 17 star systems before they'd even developed faster-than-light travel. They were the nightmare that made other nightmares check under their beds. And right now they were using her hairbrush with all the grace of drunk toddlers. "Kreki," Elia called through the comm system, addressing the largest of the juveniles. He'd introduced himself with a series of clicks and growls that her translator had rendered as something like, "Young hunter of the burning sky who will drink the blood of stars," but she'd shortened it to just Kreki. He seemed to appreciate the efficiency. The young predator looked up, her hairbrush clutched in his massive clawed hand like a tiny wand. His eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle pattern that gave him near-perfect spatial awareness, blinked in sequence. It would have been adorable if those same eyes weren't designed to track prey across kilometers of dense jungle. "Yes? Human Mother Elia?" His voice rumbled through the speakers, the translator struggling with the honorific his people had assigned her. She wasn't their mother. She was just the unlucky xenobiologist who'd been on the transport ship when the Kreki delegation's vessel had suffered catastrophic engine failure. The adults had gone into emergency stasis, leaving Elia to care for their offspring until they reached the nearest starport. That was supposed to be 3 days ago. They were now on day 9, and the juveniles had bonded with her in ways that made the adult Kreki's parenting manuals utterly useless. "What are you doing with my hairbrush?" Kreki tilted his head, a gesture that looked disturbingly human despite his alien physiology. "We groom, like human mother Elia does. We saw you perform the ritual of mane tending. It signifies pack bonding, yes?" Elia's hand instinctively went to her ponytail. She'd brushed her hair that morning, a simple routine she'd done thousands of times. To the Kreki, who communicated social hierarchy and affection through elaborate grooming rituals involving their scales and dorsal spines, it must have looked like some kind of sacred ceremony. "That's not exactly how it works," she began, but stopped when she saw what they were actually doing. One juvenile held another's head steady while Kreki attempted to brush the scales along his ridge. The brush, designed for human hair, was completely inadequate for armored scales that could withstand plasma fire, but they were trying with an earnestness that made Elia's heart ache. Another pair had figured out they could use the brush's bristles to scratch between their dorsal plates, an area they couldn't normally reach. Their pleased rumbling vibrated through the hull. A smaller juvenile, barely 7 feet tall, approached the others nervously. Among Kreki, size determined hierarchy, and this one was clearly the runt. On their homeworld, such a juvenile would struggle to survive. Here, in the cargo bay of a human vessel, something different happened. Kreki noticed immediately. He made a series of soft clicking sounds and gestured the smaller one forward. With surprising gentleness for a creature designed to hunt megafauna, he began brushing along the juvenile's shoulder scales. The technique was completely wrong. He was brushing against the grain, creating a sound like nails on a chalkboard, but the intent was clear. The smaller juvenile's eyes closed in contentment, a low purr emanating from deep in his chest. Around them, the other juveniles began to form a circle, each one grooming the next, passing the hairbrush in rotation. They had absolutely no idea what they were doing. Scales were being brushed the wrong direction, the bristles were too soft to actually clean anything, and one enthusiastic juvenile was somehow using it upside down. It was the most incompetent grooming session Aaliyah had ever witnessed. It was also the most beautiful. In Crecky society, grooming was transactional. Adults groomed juveniles to establish dominance. Equals groomed each other to negotiate alliances. It was always purposeful, always efficient, always hierarchical. But these juveniles, exposed to a human's casual self-care routine, had invented something new. Grooming for no reason except to make each other feel good. Aaliyah pulled up her datapad and began recording. The xenobiology journals would lose their minds over this. Juvenile Crecky, separated from their hierarchical society, were developing proto-empathy behaviors by mimicking human grooming rituals. She could already see the headline, "Human Influence Induces Unprecedented Social Bonding in Apex Predator Species." But that wasn't what made her smile. What made her smile was watching Crecky, young hunter of the burning sky who will drink the blood of stars, very carefully brush a tangle out of the smallest juvenile's dorsal ridge, making soothing clicks when the smaller one flinched. What made her smile was seeing these creatures, designed by evolution to be perfect killing machines, choosing gentleness. Humans hadn't survived in the galaxy because they were the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced. They'd survived because they'd looked at the universe's monsters and decided to teach them how to be kind, sometimes intentionally through diplomacy and cultural exchange, sometimes accidentally through something as simple as brushing their hair. The comm crackled. "Human Mother Elia, is the grooming acceptable? We wish to honor you." Elia wiped her eyes. "Yeah, Crecky, it's perfect. You're all doing great." The juvenile's pleased rumbling shook the deck plating. Somewhere in stasis, the adult Crecky would eventually wake up to discover their offspring had been fundamentally changed by a human with a hairbrush. The political implications would be staggering. Cultural contamination protocols would be cited. Diplomatic incidents would be filed. But right now, in this moment, 6 juvenile apex predators were learning that sometimes the pack wasn't about who was strongest. Sometimes it was about who remembered to help you reach that itchy spot between your shoulders. Elia's hairbrush, inadequate and misused, had taught them that. And that, she thought, was perhaps the most human thing of all.